Fanatically Correct. Brought to you by us, fans like you, but mostly us.
It's your fucking fault we're in this trouble.
What's this guy's problem?
What's my problem? Yeah, I got a fucking problem. I got a big fucking problem. If I know what kind of guy you were, I never would have agreed to work with you.
Are you gonna bark all day, little doggy? Or are you gonna bite? What was that?
In a dark corner of the world, three men will work together to bring you a podcast like no other. This is Fanatically Correct, where the fans, the geeks, and the nerds are always correct. With your host, MSK, Yo Peace, and Omega.
So now we're jumping to a Jamie Foxx performance. Unfortunately, like he normally does in his films, I feel Leonardo DiCaprio was out of hand in Django Unchained.
You know, you say Leonardo, I'm gonna say Crystal.
Samuel?
That's just my opinion.
Yes, you know what? Yeah, you know what? I have to I'm gonna have to change my answer and go with that,
That was
because
quick.
you know what? Because he's right. Because I'm thinking, because I always same thing. I go by a scene a lot of times, especially in the Tarantino films.
Yeah.
And one of the craziest scenes to me was Leonardo DiCaprio's scene at the end there when he went nuts and went complete Leo.
Yeah.
You know, not even Leo. Just he went Al Pacino, but better than Al Pacino's in a long time.
We need to talk about that when we
Yeah.
start talking about this. But no, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and he went off, so I go there. But overall, character in film, especially after just coming off Inglourious Bastards, where he is the villain and an MFer of a villain, to then be, to me, the bigger hero of the film. Because, I mean, you know, he's the outsider doing the right thing. You know what I mean? Django has to, because he's the oppressed. You know, he's the victim in this film and trying to, you know, save his girlfriend and all that. But he's just the outsider just doing the right thing. And what a switch from one character to another. You know what I mean? So I gotta agree with Yo Piece on there.
Yeah. Well, you know what actor surprised me in this movie? Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh yeah, no, yeah,
Samuel L. Jackson. Because I was like,
Of
wow,
course,
that's a different role for him. Like,
that is the most hated Tarantino character he's ever played.
yeah, man. Like,
Yes.
Jesus.
Yes.
Like, I just wanted him to die the whole movie.
This
Come
man
on,
was
man.
this man was a drug dealer. Dealer, right?
Yep.
Drug dealer. And Jackie Brown. And, like, you know what I mean, doing bad things and all that.
Yeah, arms
This
deal.
is
Yeah,
the
he
most-
sold arms. Like, yeah.
This is the most hated one for sure, bro.
By far.
For sure.
Yeah. So but Django has same thing. So many of the little things. The scene with Don Johnson and Jonah Hill with the hoods and them trying to.
Oh my goodness, that scene is so funny.
Yeah.
When
The guy
they're
arguing,
talking
he's
about
like, "Screw
when they're
you
talking
guys,
about
my wife
putting the
can make you
sheets on their
shit again."
heads. Why could you cut bigger eyes on this? Like, come on, man.
That scene's so funny. Damn, all night working herself to the bone, making these damn masks for you ungrateful bastards.
That's great. That's great.
But-
But me personally, watching this movie, I think, man, Christoph was just so out there. Everyone was good. Everyone had their game on. Everybody's acting was very high, very over the top. Now I don't want to say over the top.
I wouldn't say over the top either.
Yeah, I want to say, like, they were game on. This movie was a very, like, everybody was showing their skills, and somehow for me, Christoph was just like still untouchable for me the whole movie, man. Like,
Well, see, and he had more screen time. He was the co-main character basically, and that's the whole thing with Leo. That's my, again, like, I go back to that. That's just one of my most. That's like my favorite scene in that film, because it's just the impact of it and the performance.
Well, talk about
and
it.
everything
Talk about
it.
it. Talk about that scene, because some people may not know what happened in that scene.
Well, yeah, I mean, and especially at the end of that scene, because that's a scene where, you know, he finds out what's really going on, that he got bamboozled, that they're not who they said they are, and all that. So he rises up the price on the deal, and the whole nine just, you know, goes nuts. And then, you know, what really actually makes that scene is his performance, especially. And apparently, he actually broke his hand. I mean, cut his hand with the glass.
That's exactly.
And
that's
the
exactly
scene,
what
and the
happened.
scene that's filmed and shown in the movie is a scene that he performed with his hand actually bleeding that wasn't in the script is that he got so into it, and when he broke the glass and bled, he kept going. So they kept filming, and all the actors are such good actors. Nobody flinched.
No one broke.
No one stopped to go. Again, this wasn't in the script, so you would think anyone, especially any of the characters, especially older. I mean, Leonardo's one of the younger actors in that scene. Any of the women in the scene, maybe, or off stage hand, that somebody would, So even the people off screen, boom mic guys, camera guys, you would think somebody would have reacted to that. The insurance guy that's standing there, like one of the suits,
safety guy.
That's what the guy doing.
One of the suits or whatever. Like the fact that nobody reacted and ruined that scene and let it go out so they could actually use that take is so impressive on everybody involved in that scene's professionalism to get that scene done. But yeah, I mean, Leonardo just went off, and I haven't seen him go off. Number one, we're not used to seeing him play a villain. You know what I mean? He's Jack from Titanic. He always plays, for the most part, the good guy. Even in Gangs of New York, he's a tougher guy.
Still a good guy.
Yeah, I mean, the one, the good one was the Scorsese one. The other one, the Boston one. The Departed, same thing. He's still a good guy. You know what I mean? So we're used to seeing Leo in the good guy role, and he's a villain. And like you said, Samuel Jackson,
he's awesome.
Is like a hell of a sidekick villain because they're both equally as evil. But the fact that they close the deal and then this guy shoots him in the face. That's what everything about that scene just like completely caught me off guard.
Yeah.
Everything about that scene. I had a WTF moment at the end of that scene. Like everything about that scene, I was just like, damn. So
and then the whole gun scene right after, like.
Yes,
it's
everything goes crazy.
It's a straight up Western shootout. You know,
yes,
crazy
in the house,
crazy
in house.
So,
which
but
is
again,
crazy.
Again, I'll go the same thing with Inglourious Bastards, and then this is going to be leading into Hateful Eight. I'll let you guys say more things about Django, but it's a little over the top. You know what I mean? The same thing he started with the Kill Bill also with the sword fight scene. A lot of gore, big explosions. You know what I mean? Like, not fake Michael Bay action explosions, but just like more than probably the scenes required, compared to the Reservoir Dogs, the Pulp Fiction, the Jackie Brown. So again, it's a good movie. I really enjoyed Django, but same thing is like, I guess this is just going to be Tarantino from now on.
Yeah. I didn't feel like that scene was over the top though. I just felt like if it was like a better, and you guys are more Western guys than I am. I just felt like if it was like a straight up shootout, just more fast paced. Like I didn't feel like if it was campy. You get what I'm saying?
Well,
like,
no, it wasn't
campy at the
but
end.
it's more actiony than you're used to, like a classic Western. Like when you heard about when we did the Western episode, Yopis and I both tend to lean towards the more classic, dramatic, darker style of Western.
The spaghetti Western.
Westerns, or Unforgiven, even like because like the more simple shootouts, even Tombstone. It's
Tombstone.
more of
Tombstone, even Tombstone is a little bit more campier.
Exactly, I agree.
Compared to all the other movies.
Yeah. Exactly, but in other words, we were used to Tombstone being the campiest. You know what I mean? But then, like, the remake of the Magnificent Seven, and, like, Django, these are more over-the-top Western.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it is, because you guys are probably more of Western fans that when you saw this, it's like, okay, this is too much. When I saw it, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. This works for me, But I enjoyed that scene very much, actually. The whole shoot-up scene, that was fun to watch. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't. I didn't. I'm not gonna say I didn't enjoy it. I did enjoy it, but it was like the over the top Tarantino, over the top scenes. There were over the top scenes. A lot of things that were happening on there. I was like, come on, man, come on now.
I guess I didn't find it campy. You get what I'm saying? Like, Inglourious Bastard kind of leaned to camp. I didn't feel that way in this one. I just felt like if it could, it's a little over the top, but it's not like camp,
Yeah. But yeah, so going into finishing off from Hateful Eight, the only good thing about Hateful Eight being what it was, what a different turn to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that then to me went back to his Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction roots, with the exception of when we get into the ending, where he's still that, like I was bringing up earlier with Inglourious Bastards. But I was actually very, I got to see this one in theaters, and I've seen it another time since with Yopis. We saw it together. But I mean, I it had been a while since I seen a Tarantino film in the theaters. Yep. The last one I'd seen was Kill Bill 1. And since then, and I was like very pleasantly surprised. He dialed it back. He went back to telling a more simple story. Unfortunately, that story is based on a true story. And the clever thing about that is you have this bad pit in your stomach, and especially with how crazy he went before with Hateful Eight, that I already forgot about Inglourious Bastards. And actually, MSK probably been more surprised because he hadn't seen Inglourious Bastards yet. Or did you see it before you saw Once Upon a Time?
Oh no, yeah, for sure I saw it before Once Upon a Time.
Okay, so then so you
I saw these in order.
So it was a little fresher in your mind then. But I had the whole time in the movie, every once in a while, me and Yopi used to look at each other, and I'm like, damn, and every time they would show, Tate and Sharon Tate, and I was like, man, I just got this bad feeling that he's gonna show this stuff. Like, I really felt
the whole time. I felt the same way. I felt the same way.
Go off, and he's gonna show me what I don't want to see, and he's making the characters so relatable. I'm so enjoying her, and he's just totally distracting me. And it was a great distraction. Leonardo,
damn hippies,
and Brad. Oh my god, I just love it. You freaking hippie. He really hates hippies. I felt that the main story was just a big distraction for, are they going to be the ones that call the cops? Are they the ones who find her? Like, I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm like, this is going to be such a bad ending. I feel like after everything I'm enjoying, I'm going to leave this theater pissed. Like, I really had that in the back of my head. And before we get into that, I mean, let's get into this, like, what the main story was and what was going on. I felt Leo stole the show, but I said earlier on another episode, but I'll let you guys get into it as to how you felt about the performances and what you enjoyed the most before we get into the whole ending of the film.
I'm gonna go ahead and say I felt the same way you did, Omega, about that, like, that feeling like something bad is about to happen, because we know the story about the whole Sharon Tate thing. Yeah. And I kept expecting it. I'm like, man, this is gonna get like really dark soon. And then when they did the switch at the end, I was surprised. And I had already seen Inglourious Bastards like recently, and I still didn't expect that switch. I was like, oh,
off guard.
Okay, that's cool. I even had like this weird feeling that Cliff Booth, Brad Pitt's character, I thought he got that cigarette from the girl, and I thought that was laced, and I thought he was gonna die, and like it's just, I had a bad feeling about the ending, and
it was a lot.
Yeah. And then when they switched it up, and it went over the top at the end, by the way.
Yes.
But it went
Inglourious Bastards, like with what, and this is what I liked about it. I felt, like the gore in Hateful Eight, I didn't appreciate, but Inglourious Bastards, I felt myself like, yeah, you know what, seeing Hitler's head get shot 1,000 times into grapefruit was actually very satisfying.
It's for a good cause.
Yeah, and it was the same thing with this. Like, yeah, you know what, I do like seeing what these people really did, and that being turned on them, and them suffering over the top, you know what I mean? Like, just like the tour of the living room. That's like one of my. That's like, man. Me and Yo Piece were yelling so much in that theater during that scene. Awesome. But we weren't the only ones. I mean, everyone in that theater was like, like, I haven't seen that since Yo Piece. Excuse me. What was that film we saw with the first person point of view?
Yeah, that was
Hardcore Henry.
Hardcore, yeah.
Yeah.
Hardcore Henry.
That was another movie where like you're just like, like the whole, because like just so much happened. Yeah. And that scene where like just faces getting mad, and they so deserved it that I have no issues with that scene being over the top whatsoever.
No, it was great. And the thing is, the whole movie, you kind of feel bad for Leo's character, where he's kind of like this, like his time is done.
Dying
right?
actor.
Like he's a has-been. He even says that he's a has-been, and he goes to Italy, kind of has his own little career there, but he comes back and he's still a has-been. And then at the end, it's kind of like a happy ending where he meets Sharon Tate, and he's like, hey, I'm Sharon Tate. My husband is Roman Polanski. Like, you kind of feel like it's gonna lead him to something bigger. I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was fun. It does go back to the more simple story. Like, the whole movie is not over the top. It doesn't have too much craziness in it. But yeah, for me, Leo kind of showed more range.
I feel the same
in his acting. I know Brad Pitt got the award, and a lot of people are talking about Brad Pitt, and he's great. His character's great.
He's really good.
But like Omega said, he's Brad Pitt, right? Like we've seen this character from Brad Pitt before.
Well, that's my argument to see. Like, I don't know Brad Pitt in real life, obviously. And all I know is that the early career of Brad Pitt, a lot of the stuff that he did that was very interesting was like California. Even Seven. He tended to play more of like the more of the scumbag type, character. As
early
opposed,
on,
so I'm like, yeah, exactly, early Grace. And all that. So like, maybe he's not really like a real, because like Cool World and stuff like that, where they're interview the vampire, they're focusing on his his good looks and that personality. So I thought maybe he's more like that and he's more down to earth. But then the Brad Pitt we always see in interviews, and when he's accepting an award, and when he's like doing that seems really close to the character he played. So even if that's not who he really is in real life, when we see those interviews stuff like that, he's still constantly playing a very similar character.
Yeah.
Most of the time. So for him, that character isn't much of a stretch. But also like we were saying about that, the rest of the movie isn't really over the top. Is they were able to build up his character to make the ending scene believable by simply building him up, like the Bruce Lee scene, which I know we're gonna have to talk about now. And before the Bruce Lee scene, I want to mention, because you talk about him going to Italy and having a somewhat career there, the Italian director of the Blowtorch movie, the Flamethrower movie, is the same name as the Italian director that this guy says he is in Inglourious Basterds.
That's awesome. That Brad Pitt says.
Wait. Rewind that for me.
Yes. Okay, the Italian director that Brad Pitt says he is, and the other guys are the Italian director of the movies. They use a lot of the names from Inglourious Basterds of the movies that he was doing in Italy. Leonardo DiCaprio's character when he had a career. So he was connecting the two films, which is already a hint that he's gonna change the ending. These films exist in the same universe, basically.
Right.
And in that world where it had a happy ending for World War II, well, a happier ending, because the good guy still won overall. But it also has a happy ending in this film, which again, that was the biggest thing that was the first thing that just hit me out of nowhere, and I just looked at Yopi's and I'm like, that's why it's called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yep.
Because he's telling a fairy tale out of a bad story of wouldn't it have been nice if this is what had happened.
Right.
Instead. Yep. And that just like blew my mind. But going back to the Bruce Lee thing, like I like how he simply built up Brad Pitt's character to make him this higher than life, strong hero type character by doing subtle things. Cause even when he punched that guy, with the changing of the tire, which is a great scene, and that guy comes completely off his feet. You know what I mean? Like that happens. If you watch enough boxing, that does happen sometimes. It's rare, but it does happen. And that is just so funny the way they shot that, because you just see feet come off the ground. You already know what's happening up above. It's just so well done. And in the Bruce Lee scene, the same thing. He doesn't, that's Bruce Lee was a cocky guy. I don't know why everyone got upset about it. He didn't lose the fight.
That's the thing. It's because the movie's called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, right?
Exactly.
And you're getting this fake story. You shouldn't be getting mad about portraying Bruce Lee as a cocky guy. He was a cocky guy. Let's just cut it loose. You think that Bruce Lee would not have been cocky if, you think he got where he got without being cocky?
Of course he was. We've seen interviews, and I'm not talking about movies like dragging the Bruce Lee story and other things, but just interviews you watch him in, and footage of him at conventions of martial arts and stuff like that. He was a cocky guy. You know what I mean?
I mean, he had to be cocky, guys. This is the times that we're talking about. Yeah, Look at the times that we're talking about. He had to be cocky to get to make films in America. Period. There's no way around it. He had to be cocky.
And he's a small guy, too.
And it was funny. It was a funny scene. It was a playful scene. Yeah. And no one actually won. Really. If you look back at the scene, no one actually won.
We didn't get round 3. And here's the other thing, too. They also show, and this is true about Bruce Lee also, they show the scene where he's training Sharon Tate for the movie, and he did that a lot. He trained, he trained with Chuck Norris. He trained David Carradine, which
he trained a lot of stars. He's trained a lot of stars in Hollywood,
and that's true. Yeah. He was in those circles, and they show that with David Carradine and with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and stuff like that. And that was because even as cocky as he was, he seemed to be a very friendly person and very open to good relationships.
And nobody's taking that away from him in the story.
And they
That's not taking that away from him.
They showed those scenes too.
It's also an alternative universe, right? Even if you don't think he's cocky, or if it's like blown a little bit over proportion. Like it's not really him. You get what I'm saying? Like it's a character. It's Bruce Lee is a character in this movie, you know?
But it's a great scene.
It's Batman. It's Batman killing people or Superman killing people, right? Like, okay, it's a story they're telling. They just take it for what it is and just go on. Like, live your life.
My favorite thing about that whole segment of that scene is especially like the part when they show, which that's why I had to watch it a second time because I had to go to the bathroom at the moment when they show the scene about did he or didn't he kill the wife.
That's amazing.
I missed that the first time. That's so funny.
Yes.
Yeah, you filled me. Yeah, luckily you filled me with that. But what I love about that whole scene, because that happened in the trailer when they were saying, "Oh, he's a wife killer" and all that. Then the fight with Bruce Lee, and then what I love about all of it is at the end, he's on the roof remembering this, and he just does like that nod, like,
he's like,
that was my fault.
That chuckle, like, yeah.
Yeah, because the whole time he thinks that Leo's character doesn't want to help him out, you know?
Right.
And then he looks back at it, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll give him that."
Yeah, that was my fault. There's not much he could do here. But yeah, man, it's just like all that came together, and then Leo's scenes are just like that scene when he loses in the trailer with himself, and he's threatening to shoot himself when he gets home, like just everything about that, and then he lays out like a great performance, and he's like arguing with the little girl, like everything about Leo's character, and like even when we get into the ending scene, because I talk about this with MSK, I had forgotten for a moment. Because I remember specifically seeing it because he talked about how much he loved that flamethrower and that he's like, I did those stunts because he loved the flamethrower so much.
Yeah.
He had it. And I remembered
Wait, before you go, before you say that, with the funny part of that flamethrower is like when he's asking the guy, hey, can it be less hot? And he's like, it's a flamethrower.
Yeah.
What do you mean less hot?
I feel the heat is going to be less hot. It's a flamethrower. Yeah, that's a great scene. It is a great scene. But yeah, I remember, and it's going back to that same Brad Pitt, Bruce Lee sequence, is that when he goes into the utility room, which is right off the pool, it's there. The flamethrower is there leaning against the wall.
You miss it.
And I remember seeing it, but I forgot about it at that point. And I'm like, that's funny.
I didn't even notice it, man. I didn't notice it until you told me.
I did, but I completely forgot and then at the ending, I'm so into the moment. And for the most part, since Brad Pitt is like the tough guy and they really built him up, they really didn't make Leonardo DiCaprio's character like a wimp. You know what I mean? But they just didn't show him as tough because
they just showed him as a has-been actor.
He's an actor, and then he has this tough, stunt double that he's friends with. So like he doesn't need to be tough. So when he jumped out of that pool and left, I'm like, oh, this guy went running to go lock himself in the room with the wife or whatever. And then when he came back out with the flamethrower, I'm like, oh shit, that's right. And then he lit her up on fire. I was like, oh, this is great.
That's awesome.
That was such a great scene. But man, everything to me that and we can start wrapping up a little bit. For me, that's in my top 3. That is with Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction.
Well, it's in your top 3. Oh, okay.
It's in my top 3.
I'm there with you, bro.
Okay, so what's your order of top 3? It's the same movies?
If for me, my order is I go Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
All right, what about you, Yobis?
No, mine is Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, and then Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh wow, okay, all right.
That's and now let's see what's the MSK bomb drop.
All right, so mine is Jackie Brown.
Wow,
April 8th.
I knew he was going there.
The one he
Kill Bill 2. Kill it.
Those are my top 3. No, I'm gonna say Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, and this is gonna be the shocking one to you, Kill Bill Volume 1.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. See, but I can see that because the way you and that makes sense, and it's good that you explained why you see it as 2 different films. Because Kill Bill Volume 1 by itself is a great film, but for me, I just and we already discussed it. I just feel the disconnect from without having a part 2. So, but I like Once Upon a Time because even then, like I was explaining, I prefer the more toned down films of Tarantino. Kill Bill was already him building up, not experimenting.
He's experimenting. Well, that's what I like about Volume 1. Is more of not so much of the story. I mean, the story is great. It's more of how he shot it, of just like the shots he chose and how he put all those stories together with the anime and the fight scene at the end with the sword.
I love that anime. I love that anime.
Yeah,
that's what's
the
funny.
anime scene was great.
Yeah, Natural Born Killers does that, and he wrote Natural Born Killers.
Yeah.
He's one of the writers on that. Oliver Stone, I believe, is who directed and everything. But you know that most likely those were notes that he wrote into that because that's his style. And I bring
he's a
that
big
up.
fan of like Asian films. You know,
big time. Big time. Hostel 1 and 2. I know he was somebody that was fighting to get the rights and he never did for Old Boy, which we discussed. He's a big Sonny Chiba fan, which is something I'll mention in the necessity that it comes into that too. So yeah, that's very true. He's very into a lot of like Korean, Japanese, Chinese, Taiwanese horror, action, kung fu films. And he shows
I feel like he's
lot.
just a big film nerd, right? Like even when he talks, you see him like just being a nerd.
He's a fan
of cinema.
He's a fan.
So.
Yeah, he's a fan. He's not just someone. Obviously, he's a film school nerd, like you said. He's a film school nerd that studied a lot of other previous films and then international films. You know, so he dips into other industries. But yeah, man, he's.
But yeah, that would be my pick for number 3, and
that's good, man. That's a good choice. That's a good choice.
It's good that all three of us have the top 2 same movies. You know.
Yeah. I'm just the one that messed it up in the order because that's just who I am.
No, I mean I get it. For me it was Reservoir Dogs first because I don't know. I guess like the more simple
because you saw that movie when you shouldn't have seen that movie. That's why.
Yeah, I also saw a movie when I should have seen it, so it's kind of both ways. Reservoir Dogs. I think it's just a simple story told in a way where like it could have been a bigger movie, and then but
But you didn't need it. You didn't need it.
I didn't need it, right? Like I didn't really need it. Yeah, so it was good. I that's why it's my number 1. Pulp Fiction. I mean, I don't have to explain why Pulp Fiction is my number 2, but yeah,
of course.
Well, get into the
and wait, one more thing before you get into the thing, into the
necessity. Go ahead.
Oh man! All right, guys, stop saying that. That's bad. So, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is actually, I think, the second movie that he actually got to direct, write, and produce.
Yeah.
So a little,
he
a little
was
extra.
Yeah. He's always involved too in the casting decisions, and they do a lot of good work in that.
Yeah,
he's always does a great.
I think this is the first movie he did with Sony, also because he usually does Miramax Weinstein production type. But
right. Yeah.
Everyone's getting away from that noise. Yeah, everyone's getting away from that noise.
I think we will not see Weinstein movies, for
no. And this one had a lot of surprising small parts. Again, because Uma Thurman, when you had mentioned earlier, she was in it. Kevin Smith's daughter was in it. I forget her name now, but the one that was the girlfriend, the main girlfriend at the ranch, was Dakota Fanning.
Dakota Fanning
was in it.
Nothing like her. I mean, she's just completely into character. So yeah, a lot of like
Al Pacino was in there.
That's right. Yeah, early on he had that small role.
Yeah,
the small part where he's telling basically Leo that
the time is done, sir. Has been.
And he's trying to bring him back. Now, some crazy stuff. Also, that the stuff Tarantino might be working on. They might be doing a show of Bounty Law.
I heard about that for HBO. Actually, I heard.
Yeah, HBO might be doing a series of Bounty Law, which is the fake series that they had, in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Rick Dalton's character. Yeah.
Also, like you said, Kill Bill Volume 3. That is a big time rumor in the industry. Django Zorro. I actually would like to see that, and only if Banderas is playing Zorro, because because the reason is the relationship between Django and I keep forgetting his name, the German
Christoph Waltz.
Waltz. The relationship that they had, and that character is now dead. If it's a continuation, which I would guess it is, because Jamie Foxx is also older. Also, I want someone that can, and I think Banderas' version of Zorro could fill that void in that relationship. If I get like a young Zorro or something like that, I don't know if I get that same vibe that'll work.
No, an older Zorro would actually work for me as well. I think it would be like that that pass on of the torch, like it was passed down to him type of deal.
Yeah,
I think that would be the best way to go about it.
And then the other rumor is that
that rumor is crazy.
That's a crazy rumor, but it's been semi-confirmed is that he is in the works to write a script for Star Trek and maybe direct
what
Star Trek film.
Yeah, that's been a rumor for a while. That's been a rumor,
and that's been an ongoing rumor. And every time now, whatever that would be crazy, and I'd actually be interested to see it because that would be very different.
I feel like he would bring it more to the old school style of the first series,
with the dialogue.
With the dialogue,
of course, exactly.
He'll make it something to that effect. But
I'd like to see. Yeah, I like to see him do original series era, but a new set of characters, a new crew, and a different ship. That's what I would like to see him do. For that. So I don't have to try to connect it to anything else and just see him do his thing with that base. Because I've never seen him do a sci-fi. You know what I mean? Like this kind of sci-fi. So I'd be interested in seeing that. But overall, so the Nerdcessity, which plays into a lot of things that we've brought up earlier. It starts with the Reservoir Dogs. This is a script that he sold, which I believe also was one of the scripts that he sold was what I said earlier, Natural Born Killers, to make some money so he can bankroll and he could do his own thing to do Reservoir Dogs, is a film called True Romance.
Yep.
This is a young Christian Slater, is the main character. Which, from Mr. Robot, and, he's done a lot of... Christian Slater's done a lot of work. But we all know Christian Slater. But this is, like, peaking Christian Slater. The other thing is, this film is nothing but well-casted. I'll talk about Christopher Walken, Gary Oldman. Man, am I going to get into Gary Oldman in this movie. Val Kilmer has a small part. Chris Penn. Brad Pitt, a small part. Michael Ravenport. One of the best fight scenes to me, it's in my top 3 all-time fight scenes, is between Patricia Arquette and James Gandolfini, Tony Soprano himself, because it's such a crazy scene. I mean, everything about this movie's out of hand. Like I said about the Sonny Chiba, there's a whole thing about the Christian Slater's character that he's like a big Sonny Chiba fan, as well as Patricia Arquette's character. It's a Nerdcessity, so I don't want to spoil things. The base storyline, and this is where I can get into Gary Oldman a little bit. And this is peak young Gary Oldman when he was really doing, Bram Stoker's Dracula, and he's just all over the place. Just like you didn't know what he looked like. You didn't know what he looked like, at all.
Come on, chameleon.
Yeah. I don't even know who you're talking about. Who is this Gary Old? I don't know who that
is. Commissioner Gordon. Come on, Batman.
Well, Boomer. He's a boomer.
I don't know who that is.
Say with that guy, it's you right now. That's how good of a actor he is. Right now, you just pull off a mask, and you've been Gary Oldman your whole life. Someone memed that, right? That's so funny.
Was great
that's
meme.
One of the best ever. Like that's how good of an actor he is. Yeah. Is that you've been him your whole life. But, so the base storyline is a regular, average guy ends up in a situation where he falls in love with a woman of the night, and tries to get her out of the life. And some stuff goes really wrong, and that's where we get into Gary Oldman, who plays a Rastafarian wannabe pimp. And that's pretty much where everything goes south from there. And from that moment, something puts them in a situation where, and I feel if Tarantino did direct this film, it might have been out of order, like Pulp Fiction was,
and it probably would have been the top 3.
And it probably would have been the top 3. For sure. I love this. One of my favorite. Yes. Yeah. This is one of my all-time favorite films. I saw this in theaters also. It's not as bad as other movies.
What the heck is going on?
I know.
You know what? I gotta go talk to your parents.
I know, seriously, Latin parents. But yeah, I saw this movie actually I think twice in the theaters, because I saw it a second time was in a dollar theater, because it gets it there like 8 months later or whatnot. And then I've seen it a bunch of times on video.
I just want to let you know something, though. You saw Reservoir Dogs a year earlier than this movie. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah,
I'm just letting you know.
I know. So it's worse. That's what I'm saying. This is a down tone. I mean, it's a very violent film. But I'd say even one of the actors was, what was his name? He was in Perfect Strangers, Balky.
Yeah, Bronson Pinochet.
Yeah, a totally different character for like everyone that's in this movie. The scene between Christopher Walken and Dennis Hopper is one of the best dialogue, given scenes and performances from two guys going head to head, in a just pure dialogue situation. It's incredible. And I mean, this film has I mean, everything. It's just, and it gets into like Hollywood drugs. It gets into the Italian mob. I mean, it gets just so much stuff happens on this road from just guy meets girl. I mean, that's basically what the story is. Guy meets girl, and guy and girl are just trying to be happy together and get away from their previous life. And it just, everything that ensues from there. But it's a Tarantino script. So incredible dialogue.
It's been a while. It's been a while since I've seen it, and I'm not sure if the wifey has seen it. So
she'll love it. I think she'll like it.
Yep, I think I'm gonna go and show her.
Yeah. Because especially when you see all these actors that are big actors now, like the Brad Pitt, scenes. You're like, really, Brad Pitt was doing this thing? You know what I mean? Like you're shocked. Like, they got him. It's very early on too.
Welcome to Hollywood. You have to start somewhere.
Yeah, pretty much. And then even like the Hollywood director, he's recently in that show Hunters. I just recognized him. Like, oh yeah, this guy's from True Romance also. Chris Penn's Tom Sizemore. That was when he was in the peak of his career also. I mean, it's just like so many good actors. Excellent performances, dialogue's out of hand. I mean, and the pace of the movie is excellent. It has a very slow beginning, and you kind of feel like, what kind of movie am I about to watch right now? You already know because I'm giving you an advance notice that you're not watching a rom-com, but you start to get that rom-com feeling at the beginning. Yeah, it sets up like it does. And from that point on, everything after Drexel, that's Gary Oldman's, it's just a whole nother movie from that point on, and it's not a halfway mark. It's like 20 minutes into the movie, and then from that point on, you're just on a whole crazy ride. And
if you're into directors, the director is Tony Scott. Yeah. And during those times, he directed things like Top Gun. Let me see, Beverly Hills Cop 2, The Last Boy Scout, Crimson Tide, Enemy of the State. This is different. Let's just say it's different. Men on Fire, Deja Vu. Yeah. So it's just like a very and
he does it justice. I mean,
this is different, exactly, and this is different.
Yeah, I think that even if Tarantino directed it, I think it would have been a different film to an extent as far as the way the timing was and all that. But a lot of the actors are actors Tarantino uses. I think it still would have been just as good. Like, this movie is just as good if Tarantino had directed it himself. I think it's still. It doesn't take away from it, and it's not a Tarantino film, but he wrote the script, so I think it's a great necessity because we wanted to talk about the stuff that he directed and produced and everything, and not hold any of those back as a necessity. So that's the necessity.
Can I throw in something else?
Yes, go ahead.
Just in case you don't know who Tony Scott is, he's actually the brother to Riley Scott. Just want to say.
Oh, figures. I actually didn't know that.
Yeah. I just want to throw that out there. I don't know people.
That makes sense.
And directing and stuff.
That makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, that's the necessity. And like I mentioned early, I haven't watched it yet. I don't know if you guys have that QT8, the first 8. I think it's on Amazon already to rent.
I haven't seen it yet, but that'll be interesting.
I know they talk about interesting thing. I saw in an interview that he actually, that was his real car that they had used in Pulp Fiction, and apparently they stole it, and then like 8 years later he got it back. It's like a whole thing, like little tidbits like that. And Samuel Jackson's in it, and all the actors. I think Bruce Willis too. They're like interviewing all of them, so it looks like interesting to see the road that he took. Working his way up to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But that's a necessity. This might be a Volume 1, Volume 2 thing.
Or maybe not.
Does with it.
Maybe not.
Or maybe just a nice long quarantine. I mean, it's Tentin Quarantino, man. You need time.
Man, I'm bored already.
To do.
Yes.
you need something to do. Oh yeah, I know, man.
Yeah.
You try to.
I started falling asleep when we started talking about Hateful Eight. So that's where I'm
people
at.
Can jump. People can jump 20 seconds after that. So
man, that's awesome.
But yeah, so Death Proof. There you go, Kurt Russell. So we got the Kurt Russell one. It's again, he's off the rails. He's in this direction now of doing things that are different. I feel it's still Tarantino. There's still a lot of that dialogue and moments and trickery that he does in filmmaking. But it's definitely, again, not the Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, or even the Jackie Brown where he started. But it's a shorter film, which is good because it's part of the Grindhouse set, which is with Planet. Yep. What is it? Planet Zombie or something like that. Something like that. The Robert Rodriguez one. Which one of my favorite things, and then they actually made a movie of it. Yeah, what is it? Planet Terror. Yeah. That's what it was. One of the things that is funny about that is the trailer for Machete, which is a complete joke and spoof.
All those trailers were great.
but then they made actual movies of Machete because everyone loved that joke so much that they cashed in on it. Is basically what they did. But yeah, that's the good thing. Death Proof is one of his, well, not one of his, is his shortest film. If you're not, 4 Rooms are not counting as one of his films, but he had a part of that, so that would be the shortest piece of Tarantino you can get.
That part
this would
was
be the next thing.
That part was crazy though.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a better story. it's the best room of the 4 rooms.
Yes, it is.
Close. There's a close second with Robert Rodriguez's, but same thing. You know what I mean? So this is one of his shorter ones. So even if you don't like everything about it, it happens so fast for the most part that what's the runtime on Death Proof? Like I remember what is it? Like an hour, if that.
The runtime of Death Proof, if I'm not mistaken.
113 minutes.
Yeah, it's an hour and 53 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember it being that long.
Yeah, and actually, to me, it kind of felt that way. I know maybe for you, it felt faster.
Yeah.
For me, the first half of this movie, it's kind of the opposite of Kill Bill. The first half of this movie is kind of slow and they're in that bar scene for like 40 minutes. I swear, it's like, all right, like get this moving. Once they get to the
I might have fast
scene,
forwarded to the bar scene the second time around. I might have. I don't know. I think I did that.
That you what?
You did what?
I might have accidentally skipped through the bar scene.
Oh yeah, that's
I think
the first
that's what
half of the
happened.
movie. Yeah. So I mean, I won't blame you, man. It's long, but once it gets to the scene where he's chasing the girls in the car.
Yeah,
exactly.
With Rosario Dawson's Yobis's true love.
What?
Star Wars, Mandalorian.
What Mandalorian? Once it gets to that part of the movie, I enjoyed it much more because there's more stunt in it. You get Zoe Bell, who is a stunt coordinator for those type of things. She's on the car and they're kind of chasing it. It was fun. That was a fun watch.
Yeah, I mean, the opening scene was the first ride where he did a ride with Rose McGowan. It? And so you get that like, okay, this character's crazy.
Yeah, well, that's the ending of the first half of the thing.
After that bar scene, exactly. Yeah. And then what's great about the second half is like you weren't expecting that. You know what I mean? Like you get the vibe that, which is funny because he also took part. He produced Hostel 1 and 2, which is another film that he does is when he tries to get his hands into like the horror genre, he likes to go in a direction that you normally don't see in horror, but slasher actually. The slasher concept of the survival girl. You know what I mean? The last girl. Right. A feeling that, okay, one of these 4 girls isn't gonna make, like, you're getting that vibe. Again, we're spoiling everything we're talking about. We're not gonna hold stuff back. So you're getting that vibe, like, oh, it's gonna get to that point where it's probably gonna be, Rosario Dawson, and she's gonna be fighting for her survival, whatever. But yeah, it ends up not being that at all. He messed with the wrong group of girls.
Yeah, completely opposite of the rule.
Yeah, it turned into a completely.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's what they built you up for. Like, oh, you're gonna get this guy who's he's the slasher. He's the the big horror character. I mean, different because he's more of a psychopath and he is like a Jason or Freddy Krueger or something like that. But you're just getting that feeling like, oh, it's gonna be the chase, and then you're gonna get it starts off as that, and then he definitely messed with the wrong group of girls.
Yeah, no, and that was enjoyable. That second half of the movie I did enjoy. It's that first half that's kind of like, all right, man, come on, let's get this going. I don't know how Yopis feels about it.
So this is one of those movies that I really didn't care too much for it. I didn't go to the movies to see it. I waited for it to be released. I just was not feeling the trailer at the times. Nothing was catch on for me, except Rosario Dawson. And when I did see it, that's pretty much the only reason I saw it was because of Rosario Dawson. To be honest with you, I'm not even cutting this. I don't want you to cut this. I need everybody to know this.
No, I'm not cutting anything.
That's the only reason I saw it. And again, I do agree with you. First half it was like whatever. Second half, I loved and enjoyed it. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time Tarantino got to direct, write, and produce the movie. If I'm not mistaken, this is probably his first time he did all 3 in making a movie.
As well.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that just goes to show you where the type of movies he was making at the time. Yeah. I just was not feeling too much. Right, it was all downhill from Kill Bill 2 for me.
Yeah. For myself, believe it or not, I saw it at home video. Also, I didn't want to see it in the theater, but when I actually purchased it because I have the whole Tarantino collection. I just from Reservoir Dogs on, is like I'm buying everything this guy does, and including the necessity for the end. Actually at the time I was a bit of a Rose fan because I liked Jawbreaker. I actually watched Charmed. This series with my wife, and she was in that series at that time. So I was actually a fan of hers, and she was in both films. She was in the Planet Terror, and she's also but she has a small part only in Death Proof. Well, not really. It's not small because apparently she has a 45-minute bar scene.
I mean, that's what it felt like. It was probably like 10 minutes, but it felt like 45.
Yeah, of the build up. But same thing. Of what they were showing, what I was like, and it almost felt. And I think Four Rooms came out more or less a little bit before that, which is probably when Tarantino and Rodriguez started working together. And like you said, From Dusk Till Dawn also. So I'm like, you know what? Dusk Till Dawn took me in a completely different direction. Same thing. I know because Tarantino didn't have everything to do with that, but he played a big part in it as far as especially as an actor.
Well, he wrote Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, he wrote Dusk Till Dawn.
He didn't direct.
No, he did not direct it. Okay. And
he starred and wrote.
Yeah, he was like an executive producer in the movie.
That makes a lot of sense because the same thing. The first half of that film is so Tarantino. You know what I mean? And that's a movie that's like two different movies, except both of them are good. Just like the Full Metal Jacket, it's the opposite. Actually, both separate films are good films and in different ways. Either one could have been its own film and worked great. And actually, I think he produced the series too. That's on Netflix of Dusk Till Dawn. Yeah. But yeah, the point is that like same thing. I just felt it was very different. And again, like you said, that's the direction he was going into now with the movies he was at. And before we move on to the next one, because I think it's even pushing more to that direction. Anything else you got to say on it, MSK, on Death Proof?
No, I think that's about it. That's about it for that.
But yeah, definitely. Also, I mean, there's not a film here that is not worth watching. All of them are worth watching.
Nope.
See them all.
One of them is not.
Oh, really? Okay. I guess we're gonna get there. Well,
I think I know what you're talking about.
Anyways, getting into Tentin Quarantino. I guess we'll start with the first one that really made him. Well, it's actually a cult classic. I don't think it. Actually, I personally did see it in the theaters. I was way too young to have seen it in the theaters, but I did. But it was like in a $1 theater, so it was on rerun. So I think it was already on VHS at that point. And
finally, you were young. You were too young to watch a movie. Finally.
Wait.
I shouldn't have seen that movie.
Did you say that you saw that in the $1 theater?
Yes.
When it came out?
Not when it came out.
No. He was too young. He was too young when it came out.
Months later.
Okay. Months later? Wait, what?
I don't know. I saw it.
Wait a minute, sir.
I saw it, but I was too young
so
to
he was like 6, but then he turned 7, and his parents were like, you know what? I think it's time. I think it's time.
Oh, Hispanic parents.
I know, exactly. Parents. It's like, es para dormir por eso.
Yeah.
No importa, está bien. No ves nada. So, but yeah, I tell you one thing. The thing with that film is definitely when I got into high school, and I think that's all of us did, once you got onto the Tarantino bandwagon, you're just watching it at home over and over again, talking about it with your friends. And Reservoir Dogs is definitely a quotable, conversational piece film. And, I mean, just one example from that is, Stuck in the Middle with You, I can't ever hear that song without hearing Mr. Blonde.
Yeah, you start dancing, right? You start dancing like him?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it can't. Immediately. Here I am, stuck in the middle. Well, Mr. Blonde, what a great character.
Yeah, great character. Michael Madsen, man, he was awesome.
Yeah, so, it's great. It's actually, I really enjoy that movie. I'm not sure about our listeners, how many people have actually watched it or appreciate how well of a film that was. When it was made then. I mean, that's Tarantino's baby.
Yeah.
Well, such as baby, from what I understand, I haven't seen, and this is kind of like a pre Nerdcessity, is they have a documentary that came out like right after Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out, which is called The First 8, and it's about the first 8 movies before Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that Tarantino made. But things I know from, things I've read online and from actually, believe it or not, personal family experience. Reservoir Dogs was such his personal baby. I had cousins, again, I was a kid at the time, but they were, young adults, like in their early 20s. Back in the day, in the 305 area, they worked at a nightclub called Hooligans, which doesn't exist anymore. But apparently, Chris Penn used to visit that establishment a lot. And he used to go like after hours, celebrity. So he would go, they'd shut the doors for him, make a mistake, and he would talk with the guys, hang out, whatever. And he was actually one of the people bankrolling, him and Harvey Keitel, as well as Quentin himself. It's a Miramax Productions, independent film when it was made at the time. And apparently he had also sold the script, which we'll get into that much later, also to make some money so he could film this low budget, it's still a low budget film. And even then, other actors had to front money. He had to front money. He had to sell another script. Like, he had to do a lot to get to film this movie himself so he could do it the way he wanted. And he is a pretty unconventional, we've gotten used to his style, but it's unconventional in the sense that he does things out of order. He does it, by the name of a character. And that's what Reservoir Dogs really took us. And that's one of the more, I think, impactful things the first time you see that movie. If you haven't seen another film like that, I mean, now a lot of people are doing things like that, but he was one of the first to do it, if not the first. And that alone is such a massive entertainment factor. And the fact, like he does in every film, great opening. All dialogue. At least when I was, in high school, I pretty much memorized that whole opening scene about the, Madonna like a virgin for the first time and who put into the tip and, all that incredible back and forth that just these, scummy, mob guys and bank robbers, jewel thieves actually in this one, just talk. And it's just, it has like that Scorsese thing, that Goodfellas type vibe where you're just enjoying that conversation, that dialogue. So
but what's different about this, actually, going back to when you first saw this movie, since my brother's like about 8 years older than me, I actually saw this movie way younger than I should have.
So even as young as I was, I shouldn't have seen it. You saw it even worse.
Yeah, I'm before I was a teenager. I saw this way too young. But anyways, the first time I saw it, I only remember really seeing like how it was shot. Right? Like it was very film schooly, like very low budget. And later on, when I actually started watching more movies and actually paying attention more of the shots and how everything is set up, they don't show you the heist, right? So the first time I'm watching this movie, they show little bits of the heist or like them escaping of the heist, but like you're watching the movie and it feels like a full-fledged heist movie. But it's not really. Like when you watch it, it's just pure dialogue.
Yeah, it's the one scene they don't show you. You don't get the heat scene. You don't get. They never show them in the actual jewelry store stealing the diamonds. They don't. They talk about what Mr. Blonde does. They don't show what Mr. Blonde does. Which is actually smart from a filmmaker, because from the viewer, you're trying to take different people's words at what happened.
Right, right. Different perspectives.
Exactly. So we're the outside of knowing one particular detail that all the other characters are knowing. That's what's going on with Mr. Orange. But outside of that, we're basically taking like what Mr. White's perspective was of it, what Mr. Pink's perspective was of it, and then what Mr. Blonde's himself's perspective was of it. So it's interesting in that fact because, like you said, it's a heist film, but then the actual heist itself, you're only getting dialogue on the different perspectives of what went down. You don't actually get to see it, which is also another smart trick that he does for the film. So I mean, it's just genius, and it makes you laugh a lot. I mean, Tarantino's incredible with dialogue. He's really good at writing.
What was your favorite? Dialogue. Was your favorite scene the opening?
Believe it or not, the opening is one of my favorite scenes by far. I think that's tied with
the bathroom scene.
The bathroom scene's really good. The cop torturing scene is I think
that's my favorite scene. Not that I'm a psycho or anything, scene. But
it's just it's different.
I really love the shots on that scene. There's so many, like there's a couple of shots on that scene that I'm just as a viewer now, it's even better. But watching it then, there was things intriguing about it, and I like a lot of the shots, which are one of my favorite ones are the type of the on the far side when it's a little blurry.
Yeah,
you have
when he's getting off the ear.
That difference, yes.
Yep.
That is one of my favorite shots on any movies nowadays because of this movie. Just want to put that out there.
Yeah, no, it's very well done. But yeah, I like the opening scene. That I just love the because that's the only scene where you get that. There is no other scene in the film other than when they're getting their names, which is also one of my other favorite. Like my favorite scenes tend to be the ones with as many of the characters together as possible. Only because you have such a strong cast and such great dialogue and such great performances. It's like a Glengarry Glen Ross. Every time I get that scene with multiple people at once giving me, great performances, that's what I really enjoyed the most out of that film. So yeah, the opening scene in the restaurant and the scene, especially Mr. Pink, he's like, "Why am I Mr. Pink?" And he's like, and then Mr. Purple, "Nah, some other guy on some other job, and Mr. Purple, yeah, Mr. Pink." I love all of that. It's excellent. Yeah. And but I mean, I can't think of a scene that's bad in Reservoir Dogs. No,
the acting is. I mean, I like the way that Tim Roth sets up being the cop undercover. And he's just going through his dialogue, like he's rehearsing who he's gonna be, and that's how
you talking about that bathroom scene, right?
Yeah. Like he's telling his I'm guessing his partner or whatever. He's explaining to him the cover. He's talking him through it. That way he could rehearse it, and then it cuts to the actual like bathroom scene that isn't real, and it cuts to him telling that like it's great. The way it's delivered, it's perfect.
See, but you gotta. That's incredible because Donnie Brasco came out well after Reservoir Dogs, I believe. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, 97, 98.
Yeah, exactly. And that was one of the first films to really point out that being undercover is you're being an actor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that to actually put. I mean, it's obvious that you're acting or whatever, but to really point it out, like, listen, you're being an actor, and then he's having to prepare a story, and he's presenting like a stand-up comic. Is practicing material, and it's incredible because like these crime guys, these burglars, these mob guys, all these in the syndicate and all these criminals, they have such personality. It's like you got to really do your part to blend into that. Is what basically what they're showing in that scene. So he has to like prepare for it like a role in a film. The difference is if you mess up, there is no second take. You get pulled into the back of a building and shot and buried. You know what I mean? Because obviously you just found out you're an undercover cop. So it's like not only perform a live performance without being able to mess up, you got to sell it to the point where you don't get found out and get yourself killed. So you also got that pressure on it. Yeah. So I mean, it's just such little things. Like maybe a part that most people might find like a little too long or boring would be like when Mr. Blonde gets out of prison. And he meets up with Joe and
that nice guy Eddie. Yeah, in the office, that office scene where
they're just talking. But you need that because you got to understand that relationship.
Right.
Because when stuff goes real south at the end, you got to understand why they would put their neck out for that psychopath.
Yep. All right, so we're going to try something a little different.
We always try. And that's how different it is? MSK said it instead of me. That's how different it is.
That's different.
That I'm not the one who said it. So yeah, I guess we're gonna do this is Fanatically Correct. We're gonna do a spotlight. We're gonna do a spotlight on a particular director.
And there you have it, folks. This has been Fanatically Correct. Until next time, you crazy kids. Signing off.
Thank you, Samuel L. Jackson.